The hybrid meeting, we got a little bit of an echo. We're both present here in the CA boardroom with board members, and we have residents both here in the room with us and online. This meeting is being live streamed over the CA Live streaming service, and it is being recorded so that you can watch it on YouTube at a later date. Timekeeper tonight is Colin Sullivan. Thank you, Colin. And the favorite part of the meeting, the announcement of closed meetings. We have two closed meetings to report. One was the ARC, members present for the ARC, Deb Bach, Carolyn Payton, Lexi Milani, Carl McKinney. The vote to close, I don't have the vote, but it was unanimous. Meeting was closed in accordance with Homeowners Association Act, Section 11B1, 11(4)IV. Consultation with staff personnel, consultants, attorneys, or other personnel in connection with pending or potential litigation. The second closed meeting, date on that meeting was Monday, April 14th. Second meeting, April 21st. Meeting of the Board of Directors, closed meeting. Members present were Sky, Reg, Karen, Mike, Eric, Paul, myself, Colin, and Ashley. Vote to close was 9-0-0. Purpose of the meeting was closed in accordance with the HOA Act. Discussion of matters pertaining to employees and personnel, 11B111(4)I. Those are our closed meetings. Moving on next. Approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Reg moves. Second?
I second it.
Sky seconds. Thank you, Sky. Thank you, Reg. All right. Discussion. Eric?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to add the topic of the date of the annual meeting for FY26 to the agenda under old business 8F.
I'll second that.
Okay. So amend, that was date of organizational meeting?
Yeah, the annual meeting of the members, as stated in our bylaws section 1.0.1.
Okay, I'll get you, Colin. Let me just write this down. This was made by Eric and seconded by Karen. Yes, Colin.
For how long, Eric?
10 minutes.
It's 10 minutes under old business. Have we discussed this prior?
It's in our bylaws. So our bylaws actually require us to, at the last meeting of the year, it actually basically says here, said date to be selected by the board of directors at the meeting immediately prior to the said annual meeting. So that would be today. So our bylaws basically require us to select a meeting today. So it would be under old business.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on this, Eric?
That's all the discussion I have.
All right, so just 10 minutes? All right. Any other discussion by board members? All right, well then we'll go right to the vote. Once again, the motion is to amend the agenda to add the date of the annual meeting of members to old business for a time of 10 minutes. We'll start with Reg.
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
No.
Eric?
Yes.
Colin?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Sky?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So that would be 8 in favor, 1 against, 0 abstentions. So the amendment passes. We will put that under old business. That'll be number F. Meeting of members, 10 minutes. Thank you. Any further discussion on the agenda? Okay. All right. So, vote on the agenda as amended to include a discussion of the annual meeting of members. Ashley?
Yes.
Oh, is that Chris? Are you there? No. Okay, sorry. Ashley says yes? Thank you. Sky,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Reg,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Colin.
Yes.
And I say yes. So that is 9 in favor, 0, 0. The agenda is approved. Okay, now for the Columbia update. Sean?
Yes, so as you know, as we prepare for this summer, we have the Lakefront Live programming. We started last fall with an internal team to evaluate, now that the lakefront area is activated, I think it's been a success in activating that area, we wanted to work on diversifying it. So we had a team internal, spearheaded by Danica Rhines, our Senior Media Relations Manager, Chris Clem, our Open Space Manager, and Robin Stimson, our Senior Community Engagement Manager. They have done a phenomenal job. This is not easy, and I learned a lot about kind of what they do and the logistics and the operations and the thought that needs to go into this programming. So they're here to kind of give you an update on what's going to happen this summer. So.
All right, with that, I think we can get right into it.
Yeah.
Any other introductions? Right.
Hey, Danica?
Pretty good.
Robin, I'm sorry. Sorry to interrupt. You have a special person here today. As part of take your kid to work today, do you want to have anybody else come up and sit in front here with you? I want to offer it.
My daughter Scarlett.
Do
is
not
here.
want to embarrass her, but if she would like to sit up front.
Yes, we do.
She is an amazing trooper. She wanted to come for Take Your Kid to Work Day. I told her it was going to be a long day, and she said that's okay because it's still better than school. So
Okay.
we made sure that we learned.
Congratulations, you all.
Yes, we learned a lot about the community, the work that we do here. Had a lot of interesting conversations and meetings. So
Okay.
she is here and observing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. I apologize for slowing your roll there. I
No,
apologize.
no,
Let's
no,
get to
no.
work there.
Not at all. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to share with you all. As Sean mentioned, this has been a labor of lots of different teams and departments and individuals. We're just 3, and we're not even close to representing all of the people that have been involved and provided very valuable feedback and input. So wanted to share that. Again, I'm Robin, and wanted to just briefly go over the agenda of what we're going to share for this portion. We're going to just give you an overview of the project and the summary of it. It's just itself of the programming that we were looking at. Provide some relevant background data and some comparative research of what other communities have done and or are doing. The internal work group, the creation of that internal work group and the approach, sort of what we were looking to do when we gathered everybody together to have the conversation and implement some of these really vital, important changes. And probably most importantly or excitingly, what are the updates for Lakefront Live 2025? And also excitingly, what are the next steps? So,
It's all right.
no problem. Should I go? Awesome. Okay. So we were really tasked with looking at the programming that exists as it is, and a lot of this, these conversations were spearheaded by Sean, who joined, as we know, last summer. It was his first exposure to all of the things of CA and all of the things that we do, particularly at the lakefront, as well as other spaces. And we really wanted to, this was a really good opportunity for all of us to have really just sort of take a step back. What have we done well? What are some areas that we can improve? How can we lean on other partners and or vendors in the space, sort of look at activations and involvement in different ways? So we came up with this idea for an internal work group, and that's really tapping different individuals across the organization. Some have a lot of involvement around lakefront programming and logistics. Some do events in their specific spaces. It may not be at the lakefront, but certainly in different spaces across all of our facilities. And wanted to give them, the team, the internal work group team, some parameters of background of what we do typically at the lakefront, what can be done, what's possible, and really let them loose to sort of brainstorm new ideas, things that could be implemented easily or quickly, and some that we might want to put in the parking lot for next year or for future years. So we did, had several meetings. The first one was in October. We met again in, I think, mid-February. The snow kind of slowed us up a little bit with that. And we intend to continue to keep this group going, and we'll meet again over the summer, really wanting to pick their brains again on what are some of the programming things that we have done so far this summer, and then how can we implement some new changes either later this year or possibly next year or future years. So the goal really was to reach people that we aren't reaching. It's easy to look at a space and see 1,000 people and say, great job, you did it, you nailed it. And we often do, but I think what keeps us at the top of our game really with our events and programming is really asking those questions of who is missing and why, and if there's something that we can do about it, or if our partners can do something to really alleviate that, can they and should they? So how are we reaching the people that we haven't been able to reach, or we would like to reach more of them? What are some ways that we can add variety to the programming that we already have? If we have music, is there different places and types of music or spaces at our different facilities to hear music? So what are some different ways that we can diversify that programming as well? And then again, with that inaugural meeting that we had in October, we wanted to focus primarily in that meeting just on downtown, but the subsequent meeting that we had in February looked at activation and programs that we could do in the village spaces, village centers, and other facilities across Columbia. And again, just really tapping this internal group for their thoughts and ideas of what's possible.
Come on, quicker, buddy. You can do it. Thanks, Julie. Now to hold that over here. Well, those were supposed to move, but here we are. Tech issues all over the place this week. We had some last night too. But really just wanted to give you a retrospective of the lakefront being an important space for this community. And I'm sure a lot of you know this already, but just, reimagining programming at the lakefront is nothing new. This is supposed to be a collection of pictures kind of fading in regarding all different kind of activations in that space. You wouldn't mind? And do you mind if we just grab the keyboard or something?
It's a PDF, so it's not.
Oh, it's the that's okay.
That was my fault.
We can just roll through. Thank you, just so you guys don't have to do that. Awesome. We're just very familiar with this. Some more examples of that over the years, and what you'll see as well is representation being a key piece. So a couple years ago, really one of the key factors that spurred on the Lakefront Live brand, if you remember that kind of being reborn out of the decades-long series that we've had, was the fact that we wanted to make sure we were intentionally representative of this diverse community. And that was nothing new, but definitely wanted to put more of a focus on it. And I think it's important to remember as well that the lakefront continues to be a space where people gather to have their voices heard and or to kind of, express how they're feeling about certain issues. It's where people naturally gather for those things. We aren't the ones as CA as an organization saying, come here. This naturally happens. So what you're seeing here are a couple examples of that. The 9/11 memorial there on the left, and some of the protests during COVID to end Asian hate during that time period on the right. And, this historically has just been a space where that kind of political or maybe social movement has happened naturally.
So again, in looking at, if we were going to sort of refresh or rethink about our programming again, and at least the inaugural meeting at the lakefront, it was helpful, we found, to look at what other areas are doing in their downtown spaces or community centers. And really, it was trying to just get an overview of the type of events they were having, the number of events they were having, if there was a particular partner collaboration or type of arts that was showing up consistently, and wanting to just give us a frame framework of really how to think about what we're doing in our spaces, knowing obviously none of the spaces are identical and can be compared very easily, but just looking at geographically, what are some of the things that are happening in downtown Bethesda, Town Center Laurel, Rockville Town Center, downtown Silver Spring, Color Burst, which is here in Columbia, Reston Town Center, and Carroll Creek Park, which is in Frederick County. So there was a lot of things that we learned in doing that comparative research. One of them was that a lot of these other spaces were having their specific programming take place on specific days. So if they were doing things for children, maybe it was every Sunday something was happening for children. If they were going to have musical acts, it would be every Thursday. Wellness activities would take place on Mondays. Not all of them would be the same, obviously, but just really that consistency in how they marketed or framed the type of event, and it created a sense of habit forming for the community to know, okay, so it's Thursday, I know if I go to Laurel Town Center, I'm gonna hear music tonight. If I go on Saturday, there may be activities and face painting and things like that for kids. So that was something that was very helpful for us. Again, the Saturday morning for families, I may have said Sunday just now in the example, but most of the other comparable locations were doing Saturday morning fun days for their families. So that was new to see that consistently across the different communities. And then lastly, one of the things that we saw were that they were fewer events taking place in all of the different comparable locations. They may have broadened them out. Maybe they would have more festivals or, resource days or fairs, festival fair type things, if you will. But definitely, not a ton of music, meaning they didn't have, maybe once a week they would have a musical act, not 2 or 3, 4 times a week was their music, and 2 or 3, 4 times a week were their movies, for example. So fewer events, but bigger and broader, involving more community partners throughout.
And I'll add, I think that was the key takeaway for us from other groups, is we were doing as an organization quantitatively a lot more. And trying to think about the why behind that was certainly a driving force in bringing the group together as well.
Yep.
So some of those key takeaways from the internal work group, the initial meeting, was targeting specific age groups, which would include young adults, children, our teens. That's a hard group to get a hold of, as well as our seniors, which is also another group that's hard to get to come out and stay out with us. We'd also would connect with historically underrepresented groups. That's something else that we're going to strive to try and do with some of this new reimagined programming. Build on some of our existing programs, particularly wellness activities. We do this, we have gyms, we have all kinds of great facilities here, but how can we take that out into the community to where we can provide it even for free, just for people to show up and be able to take part in that. Activate areas around the lakefront, not just the stage. So that one of the things is we tend to focus on that stage all the time for every event. The lakefront's beautiful. There's other spaces at that property we can activate, as well as other areas within Columbia. Fewer, more concentrated efforts. Like Robin and Danica were just saying, it's more festival style type events. Lean into events that demonstrate multicultural representation and develop more inclusive programming throughout all of CA events, really, not just the Lakefront Live series, but everything that we do. We want to try and incorporate more of the multicultural aspect on that.
So here's the exciting part, and you guys are actually getting a sneak peek at some of the brand new branding behind this. I know, don't get too excited. Okay, so here are some of the updates for this year, and we'll try to breeze through these pretty quickly, but if you have any additional questions, happy to answer them. So building off of that idea of having fewer but more expanded events, we are going to do a couple of what we're dubbing block parties. So this is building off of a pre-existing concert that is already happening and making it into a bigger, grander event with a little bit more purpose behind it. So they will bookend essentially the summer series, one for the end of the school year, one for the start of the new one. So you're seeing the flyer right here, or one of the pieces for the summer kickoff block party that will happen on Saturday, May 31st. Again, this is anchored by, and we've been working with Columbia Festival of the Arts is now part of Meriwether Arts and Culture Center. We've been working with them for a few years now to really curate, again, these representative acts from the region, try to get a little bit more pool, and really elevate our offerings in that space, and then building around it. So this will include some kids' activities. It'll include a beer garden, which I heard was introduced to you all. It's very exciting. And then some of the other elements that we've done in the past, some free ice cream and things like that. So again, trying to really just build a greater experience off of that concert. We are going to host DJ nights. We're going to have 3 of those, and they're going to be targeted at very specific audiences. The reason for that being is we discussed this with the internal work group. We found that really inviting everyone and curating that sense of belonging for everyone was fantastic and really important. Sometimes people or certain groups of people need an intentional invitation in order to feel that welcome and sense of belonging. And so we're going to try this, and we're going to see how it goes. We're going to do a teen DJ night to start it off. We're going to do a Pride in July, late July, and then a Y2K kind of millennials night at the end. This is more October-ish that we're targeting there. So this is new for us. We've had DJs down at the lakefront before, but this actually having intentional kind of DJ nights is new. So it should be really fun. Robin mentioned family fun. We are, sometimes imitation is the best form of flattery. So if it works other places, let's try it here. And so 10 to 12 on select Saturday mornings about once a month, we're going to bring just some kind of low-key, low-hanging fruit, light lift entertainment. So magician, bubbles, face painting, music acts for kids, things like that, hoping to bring the families out during those. Weekend wind downs. So Chris was talking about activating different spaces around our lakefront. This is one of those efforts to do that. So the hope is to bring acoustic acts down to the lakefront space and not necessarily showcase them on the stage, but rather have them kind of provide an ambiance. Maybe they'll be set up on a boardwalk. Maybe they'll be on a pathway off the beaten path, no pun intended, somewhere. Just trying to bring some like low-key ambiance to the space and see how that's received as well. People already enjoying the space, just getting elevated. And then, of course, by no means are we doing away with the tried and true of favorites, right? We still absolutely have movie nights with Mr. B. Sorry, this list is a little small. If you don't know Mr. B, I don't know how you don't know Mr. B by now. We are still going to bring in some local bands, more of that kind of local, hyper-local vibe. Dancing Under the People Tree will continue. We are making some really intentional, or at least trying to make some intentional connections between that wellness opportunity and the movie playing that night, with the hope that we can get some cross-pollination, right? So the first one, I think it's in my head, we have Moana 2. The dance in that night will be island-inspired. So the hope is that, again, we get a little bit more synergy between those events and a little bit cross-pollination in those audiences. Lake Fest, we do the umbrella exhibit every year. If you have not seen it, it's amazing. Juneteenth is right before Lake Fest this year. We will continue that. July 4th, of course, and then Festive Fridays later in the year.
And I'll just add too that the partnerships really are key, and certainly in that continuation of partners and vendors are huge. And we really are grateful to them in building and strengthening those relationships. But we also see new opportunities in some of the newer elements and things that we're doing throughout the summer to bring in some new partners and strengthen those relationships as well. Do you want to go?
Sure. So next steps is, launch lakefrontlive.org for this season. You kind of just saw a glimpse of the poster for the first event, which is May 31st, but hopefully the rest of it's going to be coming out here soon. Then we can go ahead and get started next week. Awesome.
Now it's out in public, so it's got to happen, doesn't it?
It's going to happen. That's right. We're going to continue working with external vendors to execute this new vision. This is new for CA, but it's also new for some of our current vendors that we've been working with, where it's a different ask of what CA needs from that vendor. So it's working very closely with all of them, and that includes Meriwether Arts as well, because they're contributing in other ways this year as well. And we're also going to continue with the internal work group. As Robin mentioned earlier, we plan to meet later this summer, kind of after the kickoff of this season goes, so that we can think about how it's going so far. Basically, we want to get through each of the different types of events, as Danica was mentioning. So we want to get through a DJ night, get through the block party, get through a couple movies, couple dancing on the people trees, Saturday morning funs, and then really get back together and talk about how those are executed, how they were received, any changes that need to be made before the next event comes up, so we can go ahead and have time to make those changes. And then we're also going to see what other type of programming opportunities we have around Columbia.
Just add real quickly too, we're really looking at this as a data collection year as well. We wanted to start really not, low, but just not overpromise and underdeliver. What are things that can be built upon for as we move forward, either again in other spaces or for next year or beyond? So a lot of this is trial and error, and we may keep it, it may work, or we may need to make some tweaks. Yeah.
So what you see now is, we talked about activating other spaces that we own around Columbia, right? Bring it to a village near you. So as an example here, what we did is we kind of took Wild Lake Park, and it's kind of small on the screen there, I do apologize. So the green areas are ample opportunities to activate in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a concert, a movie, a solo acoustic artist, kids' morning fun, whatever we decide to do, those are the spaces that we feel are the best to activate it. There is a restroom at this facility, so that's just some of the things that we look at as we're looking at these village centers. If you're inviting people to come to the center or to an area of open space, wherever we do this, we need to make sure we provide facilities. So that's one thing that we're evaluating. Access to things like power or water, depending on if those are available or not, may limit on what type of activity it could be. So if there's no access to power, we probably wouldn't have a DJ, but an acoustic artist with a battery-powered speaker to amplify their voice, their instruments type thing would certainly be possible. And then parking. We have a lot of great sites, but we don't have a whole lot of great parking. So walkability, bikeability, how can we utilize our pathways and get their information out there for people to come to these events are the other things that we're evaluating on. And then we also, there's pros and cons to every site. So, right here, just quickly listed a couple cons for Wild Lake. It is close to residential housing, to where if you do hold something later in the evening, you may have impact to those neighboring properties that may not want to partake in that type of entertainment. So you may have a sound limit type thing where you have to do something earlier in the day, morning, or early evening. And then it could be a long walk to the restroom facilities. On this particular site, the restroom is kind of in the middle, but if you activate that big field down along LPP, and let's say we have a drive-in movie night that night or something, that's a long walk to go up to those bathrooms, and especially when it's dark. There is no lighting there, so it could get dark after for that walk. So those are just some things that we take a look at on each of these properties as we're moving forward with the work.
And this is indicative of kind of the next steps for this internal work group, right? So in the last meeting we had with them, we had a number of these examples that Chris went over with the group to kind of level set as in terms of what could be feasible first, instead of, kind of sky's the limit, and then trying to work the ideas into that. So that's a work in progress right now, but just, that work is going to continue. So happy to take any questions. And again, I would like to kind of tie the bow here and say that I hope, first of all, that this does not in any way, shape, or form say that the past programming has been unsuccessful. Our team that executes these events are talked about throughout this community for their excellence in doing so. That is, they are amazing at what they do. There's always more intentionality that we can put on the front end behind what we are doing. And so definitely want to commend that team, and they've got a lot of work in front of them too. So give them a lot of good juju in the year ahead. And just hope that this shows the amount of intentionality that goes into this kind of programming. And this is not just at Lakefront, this is throughout the whole organization. So we appreciate your time.
Great. I think Mike would like to start off with the first question. Karen, second, and then Ashley.
I think this kind of builds on what you were saying there at the end and what Robin said about data collection, that you talked a lot about wanting to diversify and increase reach, but it wasn't clear to me how you're actually assessing that and how you're measuring that. And I don't need a full detailed answer right now. It's just something I'm curious,
For sure.
And I want to make sure we're doing that to know if this is working.
So do we. So yeah, a lot of it. So I will say in my short tenure here, right, post-COVID, I think the first couple years we're getting our feet under us, right, and just programming and getting used to doing that again. Then the next step was, okay, who's here anecdotally? Can we get our rough count? And we do have rough counts for a lot of these events. You can kind of tell diversity, but that is really surface level, right? And so we want something deeper. So now we're at the point where we can be asking those questions, and you're asking the right ones. Last year we did conduct a survey, a pretty extensive survey, got about 700 people, 750 to take like a 10-minute survey down at the lakefront. And some of that was demographic, and it was incredibly representative of our community, which was really reassuring. But there's always more we can do. So we are also looking into some AI tools potentially to geofence that area in and get a better understanding of who's coming and who's, like Robin said, is not there and why.
I think too, really looking at doing a deep dive into the debrief of this series. You know, I think in the past, which has been very helpful when we look at if we did the series, how did it go? There's a lot of factors into why an event, people show up or don't. Weather, the heat, you know, the storm started halfway through someone's set, or it's been raining all week and then we were the first ones to have an event on a sunny day. So even with the weather, there's just a lot of data that we can pull to figure out what do we need to do going forward. We put a lot of time and effort into the programs in the community, so I think another layer to that is to continue to engage with the community and understand what do they want, how is CA meeting those needs, and or how can we, or are there partners that can step in and we can collaborate on those together? So we are really looking at a lot of different data points as we move forward and make some more decisions.
Okay, Karen?
Yeah, thank you guys. I really like this presentation, and I think you guys are doing a good job, and I'm really happy to see the expanding into the villages. I think that's really important. My one question is, how are you guys involving the villages? How are you involving the village board and the residents of those villages so that they're part, you know, like what you showed for a while, like that's pretty neat. Like, you know, how are you going to involve those people so they can talk about what they are thinking about?
100%. So I think step one is, you know, what we've been charged to do is work with this internal work group and kind of curate some ideas first. So I think laying that groundwork is a helpful place to start, so we're not having to go in and be like, hello, everybody, just ideate right now. What you got? What you got? So I think that is, it's a really phenomenal think tank, if you will. And so once we have, I think, that foundational level of ideas, that's when we either trial and error it a little bit, and then, you know, obviously receive the feedback from those in attendance and the villages, and or go to the villages. So I think you're just a little step, maybe a couple steps ahead of us, but absolutely.
I think capacity matters too, and sort of thinking about which and how to roll out these programs to the villages, because again, when you look at what can be done, you know, we have the Change in Columbia event takes place. We move it from each village, and we haven't been to some of your villages before or yet, so apologize in advance for that. We're working on it. But every single one of the spaces are so different. So we don't necessarily know if we can do a movie night in this particular location. And so having that information and understanding the difference of the spaces, and again, Chris and his team's been amazing with that, because I can tell you, when going to it, I love Lake Elkhorn. I'm like, this is amazing. We should do more stuff here. And it's like, well, and there's this. And there's just a lot of things to consider about what types of events we can do in the different spaces, so.
Yeah, and the one last thing I'll add is we do a lot with some of the villages already, like fall festivals in Oakland Mills. We do Wild Lake, you know, Day as well. But maybe we can expand those events as well, where we can bring something else to the table as well. You know, to talk with the villages and see how else we can expand some of the programming that's already existing as well and incorporate more into it.
Okay. All right, Ashley?
I'm very excited to attend a lot of these events. I'm very curious how the Y2K one's going to turn out.
Oh, the lizards will be involved. Thank you, Colin. Thank you.
I was curious, are we talking to the local partners? I mean, really specifically, I'm thinking Downtown Columbia Partnership, right, and IAT, so that we're not competing with the other large events? That was one piece that I had. And then I have a second question.
Well, you can do, if you want, you can do your second question.
My second question was, are we promoting this on the GIS system? Like, I know we have the Lakefront Live, but will it also be on the GIS?
So I can definitely speak to the first. So we have been working with and talking to our partners since the fall about just even introducing the idea of some of these changes. In the past, we have been working very closely with MAC and, IAT and HCC and the schools, Howard Hughes. What are the events that they're having? We've even made some shifts to some of the programs that we thought we could do and found out they were doing something on a Thursday. And it's like, let's not compete over audiences. The idea is to have an inclusive and amazing downtown space where everyone feels welcome. So let's, if you are doing something on a Thursday, we'll move it to a day that makes sense for us and vice versa. So we've been having these really intentional conversations. And as you all know better than me, likely, the lakefront is very complicated, and the who owns what parking lot and the sidewalks and all of those things. So we have to communicate with our partners so that we can execute on the events like we'd like to. So yes, for sure, we've been talking to Downtown Columbia, Howard Hughes, and a lot of the other larger partners in the area.
And the easy answer to the second question is work in progress, but that is the goal. Yeah, we've got a lot of moving pieces with the new kind of, not new branding, but these new community events, wanting to give them their own unique flavor. So that's kind of step one, and even getting that lifted off the ground was a bit of a, it always is. It's fun, but a lot of work. We keep telling Sean that it is fun stuff, but it's still work. And so, but yes, I think that would maybe, if not this year, optimally the goal next year. And we're going to definitely be pushing people in that space to be utilizing the GIS system. We have some plans for that as well in terms of how we're showing up.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Okay, great. Just quick business from myself. First, getting back to the scheduling, when you're doing your block party at the end of summer, just coordinate with all the schools, find out when their back to school nights are. That's a huge night for a lot of people, and want to make sure we include everybody there. I'm sure you've already thought of that, but I felt like I had to say it out loud.
I will tell you from my experience, they typically don't have a lot of them don't have it planned quite yet. So hopefully ours being on the map first, we can beat them to the punch and say, it's your turn to schedule around us. And you're welcome to come. How about that?
I was saying communicate, so just, make sure there,
Yeah, it's a Saturday as well.
And as far as Wild Lake is concerned, thanks for mentioning that we do the old-fashioned picnic in the fall. And I can't speak for my board, but I believe they would be more than happy to sit down and maybe coordinate and augment that picnic with something that you may want to do as a trial balloon in conjunction with. I think that would be a great conversation to have. So that'd be great. And the last thing I want to know is, what night is bucket hat night? Because I'm getting one of those this year. Let me know.
It's so funny. I was so happy with those last year, and there are team members that still ask about them, so we'll have to sneak that in somewhere.
Yeah, I'll keep showing up, that's for sure, because those were hot items last summer, for sure.
Sure were.
All right. Thank you all for a great presentation.
Of course.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Give everybody a second here, and we'll move on to resident speak out. First up on resident speak out will be Laura Mayton, followed by Joel Horowitz, who I believe is online. So Laura, if you can come up. We could have let her sit. That would have been okay. Okay, and while we're getting ready, just, the standard ground rules here, 3 minutes for individuals, 5 minutes if you're speaking for a group. Colin will be doing our timing tonight. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready when you guys are.
Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. You might remember me from the last meeting, but I'm Laura Mayton, the village manager for Hickory Ridge. I was selected by the village managers to be the liaison to CA for the negotiation of our agreements, along with Steve Engling from Harper's Choice, the village manager there. At the last CA board meeting, I asked for additional time to negotiate the terms of the facility management and grant agreements. These agreements are vital to ensuring the continued success of the partnership between CA and the villages. I'm pleased to say Sean, Susan, Judelle, Steve, and I have met 3 times over the past 2 weeks. During these 3 meetings, we were able to discuss and address concerns and misunderstandings that had arisen, fostering greater clarity and mutual understanding. While the agreements may not be perfect, the progress achieved reflects a shared commitment to finding solutions. The village managers are happy to compromise, and we will recommend that our boards approve and sign the agreements with the changes negotiated over the past 2 weeks. For these agreements, the villages asked for a shorter term, 3 years instead of 5. We hope that when it is time to renew the agreements again, CA and the villages can work together toward a mutually beneficial outcome. The 6-year gap between the previous contract and the new agreement saw turnover of staff, both at the villages and CA. With the 3-year term, we hope that there will be more continuity, which will ideally lead to a collaborative and cooperative process for the next update. Due to the short time frame before the start of the fiscal year on May 1, which is a week from today, some villages may not be able to arrange to sign their agreements immediately. Villages may not have a scheduled board meeting until as late as May 20th. While village board chairs may call a special meeting, they must work within the notification requirements of the Maryland HOA Act, and a quorum is required to approve the agreements. Even with their best efforts, some villages may not approve the agreements before the May 1 start of the 2026 fiscal year. It is my hope that CA will display good faith toward the villages and fund every village as of May 1st. This is a time of transition with the village elections on Saturday, and if the village cannot review and approve the agreements by April 30th, a new board will need to be seated before the agreements can be reviewed and approved. I hope that CA will recognize the potential complications and difficulties faced by some of the villages and fund all the villages on May 1. I would really like to thank Sean, Susan, and Judell for all their hard work and willingness to talk through the questions and concerns in the terms of the agreements over the past 2 weeks. When I spoke on April 10th, I did not expect this outcome. Tonight, I am delighted with the work we did together. 2 years from now, when this process starts again, I hope the village managers will collaborate with CA and arrive at agreements that will work for all of our organizations for many years. I am confident that the collaboration we've seen over the 2 weeks sets a positive precedent for future negotiations, ensuring agreements that will benefit all parties for years to come. And also, I just want to say, vote. Vote, vote, vote. The village elections are Saturday, and we all need you to vote.
All right, great way to end. Do we have any, okay, I'm going to go with Eric and then Karen.
So given the timeline, do the villages need a 1-month extension just to get us through the, to make sure everybody can sign the new contract in time?
I think it's very individual, Eric. I'm a fortunate village in that I have a board meeting on Monday, so I will be lucky enough to probably get my agreements approved on Monday. But like River Hill, you guys, don't have a scheduled board meeting till May 20th, so you're in a different situation. Every village is different, and this is where it's difficult to say one size fits all. We all have different things going on.
Okay. Karen?
Laura, thank you. Thanks Susan and Judell and Sean and everybody else and Steve and everyone who was involved in this for bringing this to completion. Do you believe, like we were at our Oakland Mills Village Board meeting on Tuesday. We have a special meeting coming up on Tuesday. I suspect we're going to approve everything and we'll be good to go. Do you believe that the villages, despite their meetings maybe happening later, that their intent is at this point to sign?
I do believe that. We had a village manager meeting yesterday at 3:30. There were 9 of us present. Dorsey Search was the only village that wasn't there, but they've already signed agreements. And all of the village managers expressed the intention to, ask their boards to approve the agreements.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Great. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, everybody.
All right. Joel is up next, and then Lynn Locke will be the last speaker of the evening. So Joel, are you there?
It looks like Lynn Locke.
Joel is there. We just can't hear him. Okay.
I can get started for him. Joel Hurwitz, speaking as an individual.
Please, let's be.
Okay, yeah, you should be able to hear Joel.
Here
Joel.
now.
There we go.
Joel, we can hear you. Welcome.
Don't be promoting me to panelist until Laura was done.
We're all set now. We can hear you.
All right, Joel Hurwitz, speaking as an individual. First of all, you should fix the annual meeting issue in case there are any continued annual meetings in the villages to solve that problem that Eric's going to bring up later. Second, activating the lakefront. If you really wanted to activate the lakefront, you'd be taking a proactive role in talking to the county and the county council about lakefront library with public parking and bathrooms and events that could spill out onto the lakefront, instead of waiting for somebody else to come up with a plan and then you have a presentation. Please do it the other way around. Original purpose, as many of you have heard this before, I'm going to talk about the Columbia Council. The chair will call it last year. He said, well, maybe we'll deal with it next year. Well, here we are. In your orientation packet, which I assume might be the same for the meeting that's being held in a week for new board member people, it says that the Columbia Council continues to hold its annual organization meeting to fulfill its formal role as contemplated by the CA and the village's governing documents. Thank you for saying that, but you don't. The formal role is to nominate members of the council to be elected by the members of CA. I pointed out multiple times that the Articles of Incorporation of the villages strongly imply that council should first meet to nominate and then do the election. I also pointed out you should be having the Columbia Council meeting as your first organization meeting, not the last one. The Articles of Incorporation for most of the villages in Section 3rd say that the Columbia Council, an incorporated association, the membership which is comprised of representatives of various associations in Columbia, which have been approved by CA, said council in turn being entitled to nominate from among its membership persons to be elected and serve on the board of directors of CA, always providing the Articles of Incorporation of CA, which all that originally said CPRA. Anyway, as discussed previously, there don't appear to be any governing documents for the unincorporated Columbia Council. That's the legal foundations and guidance to found the governing documents of the 10 villages. And there's no specific requirement that you have a formal annual meeting consisting of calling a meeting in order, approving the agenda, appointing a chair and a vice chair, and approving the minutes of the previous meeting, which consisted of those same things. In the past decade or so, the Columbia Council has met solely to conduct a pro forma meeting. Thus, it's unclear why you're having a chair and a vice chair. So if you're going to give effect to the council in turn to be nominated from among its membership clause, you should be having that and actually doing something at your annual meeting, and then you fulfill your slide presentation that the staff pointed out last year that you're fulfilling your...
All right, Joel, if you could finish up your thought, please.
So my thought is have the Columbia Council meeting first and do the nominating so you actually do something.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board? All right, thank you, Joel. Thank you very much. Lynn Locke is our last resident for Resident Speak Out.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Lynn Locke, Executive Director and Village Manager of the Columbia Town Center Residential Community Association. I'd like to thank you all for your service to the Columbia community and your work as volunteers. We support Ms. Laura Mayton's remarks this evening from Hickory Ridge and would like to add a few more from the Village of Town Center. Thank you to the CA staff, Sean first, Susan second, Judell, Carolyn, and a few other ones that worked on the agreements since actually July 8th, which was the original kickoff meeting with Judell. We appreciate that you worked in an honest and diligent manner with our two negotiators, Steve Ingley and Laura Mayton, who were selected by all 10 villages in late 2024. Also, thank you to DARS Law for their assistance throughout the whole process. We look forward to presenting the two agreements to the Town Center Board for discussion, as do all other villages to their respective boards. We thank the CA Board for your patience over the last few board meetings as all villages have navigated this process and worked toward compromise and reaching agreement with CA staff that we can support before our collective village boards. For those leaving the CA Board, thank you for your service over the last year in helping make Columbia a better place. And good luck to those of you running for re-election. Thank you for your attention.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Locke? All right, thanks again. Thank you for coming out tonight. That concludes our resident speak out. I think we can just jump right into our schedule here, right? Do we need to change anything up front here? Okay, let's leave just a moment.
Approval of minutes?
Yeah, I'll get to that next, yeah. Got my finger on it, so I don't.
Oh, it's on it. I thought you were going right to the cancel.
How many chairs do we need for this next? Just do all right, thank you.
If this doesn't work, should I just use the mouse also?
Yes, one more.
If Reg hadn't moved down.
So I just wanted to do a quick introduction.
Oh, wait. Just before we get started, I have one other agenda item I want to get to. I want to make sure we got everything transitioned before we had our little thing here. I have on the agenda, we have the consent agenda, which is approval of the draft minutes of the CA Board of Directors meeting April 10th, 2024. And any objection to the minutes? Hearing no objection, they are approved. Thank you for sitting through that business. Please proceed.
Thanks. So we have Howard County here tonight, Chris Utah from the Department of Transportation and Jason Thompson from Recreation and Parks. They're here tonight to talk about an exciting project, Patuxent Branch Trail, which will help improve connectivity throughout Columbia and Howard County as a whole. So with that, I will hand it over.
All right, welcome. Thank you, guys.
Hi, good evening. So yeah, I'm Chris Etoff. First slide here just has the representatives from this project. I'm here tonight with Jason Thompson from Rec and Parks, and our project manager is Chris Singleton from Howard County DPW. He can't be here tonight. He's actually on a plane for vacation in France. And then our design engineers on the project, it's RK&K is the design firm, and so we have Rick Adams and Andrew Aguilera, who are our consulting team. So the Patuxent Branch Trail is a Howard County owned and maintained trail from the Lake Elkhorn area to the Savage area, but it does run through some CA property with existing easements in place that are longstanding easements. So, we want to make sure that the CA board is aware of the latest update with this project and Columbia community as a whole. And to that end, we did go to the King's Contrivance Village Board meeting in March and gave a similar update to them that we're giving tonight. So here's an overview of the Patuxent Branch Trail, the existing Patuxent Branch Trail. It's 4.6 miles long from Savage to Lake Elkhorn. It's a multi-use trail. It's 8 to 10 feet wide. Of those 4.6 miles, it's currently 3.3 miles is asphalt. They're kind of traditional Howard County pathway in a similar manner that a lot of the Columbia Association pathways are built. And then there's a 1.3 mile section that is packed gravel. So it's more of a non-asphalt surface. That is the particular segment that we're talking about tonight and that we're going to be, we have this proposal and we have this project on. There are some timber boardwalks over multiple stream crossings on this pathway. There are grade-separated road crossings at Broken Land Parkway, Maryland 32, Guilford Road, and I-95. These are actually really important. They're great. The pathway passes under these major highways, which is really critical for people to be able to get around on bike and on foot and be able to cross these major roadways. Really provides some very useful crossings in places where there are not many alternatives to crossing these major roadways. There is one at-grade road crossing on Volmerhausen Road, and it is our primary bike and pedestrian link between Columbia, Savage, and Laurel. You can see the map on the right here, the kind of the yellow shaded one. That is the Patuxent Branch Trail, so it's from Lake Elkhorn to Savage. The 1.3-mile section that we're looking at tonight is the red segment right in the middle there that crosses I-95. That's the currently dirt section. And then the map on the left is a kind of a bigger overview to show how that fits into our overall pathway network in Howard County between the downtown Columbia area and the Savage and Laurel area. It's a really critical piece right in the middle of that. So this is zooming in on that 1.3-mile section. Again, it's 8 to 10 feet wide. It's a variable surface, packed gravel. It starts off in the north end at the Guilford Pratt Truss Bridge area, and it goes over a couple of streams with timber boardwalks. The portion of the trail that goes through CA property with easements is basically the northern half, like between the Pratt Bridge, the Guilford Pratt Bridge and I-95, where it becomes more MDOT right of way. So, the CA portion is essentially the northern piece of this 1.3 miles that it's on CA property. So some goals for the project from the onset. I will mention this is several years in the making. The planning, the design engineering, the funding of this project has taken several years to get to this point where we're kind of coming down the home stretch. But the original goals were to improve accessibility and to really bring that 1.3 miles that's the current dirt surface up to the quality of the rest of the trail. It is to really mitigate the potholes, the muddy sections, the ice patches. After it really gets kind of messy down there, especially after rainfall. So by doing that, we'll provide we want to provide a consistent surface, for whether it's for people walking and jogging, people with walking strollers, people in wheelchairs, mobility devices, walking aids, people on bicycles, and bicycle commuters that may not have changing facilities or shower facilities at work, because if you bike through there on a day or a couple days after rain, you are going to get quite muddy. Also want to improve safety, both by improving the surface of the trail itself, and then the road crossing that I mentioned at Volmerhausen is a part of our project, so I'll show you how we want to improve safety at that road crossing. And very important also at the same time to protect park resources, minimize environmental impacts, minimize maintenance, and really improve the ability for rec and parks to maintain the trail. It's very difficult now with the current dirt surface. It's basically washing away after heavy rainfall, and a lot of sediment is washing into the river currently. So we want to improve that, improve drainage, and also improve the sense of place and historic context. So we've been working with some community members to be able to have more historic context along the trail and some more information along the trail. Some of the challenges. So I mentioned the muddy surface. That is pretty much the crux of it right there. Doesn't look like this every day, but it looks like this every time that it rains, which is obviously pretty frequent, and it'll stay like this for several days until it dries out. So inconsistent surface, poor drainage, muddy conditions, the Volmerhausen road crossing, and we wanted to address community concerns. Originally, these were some of the design considerations. Some of these stayed throughout the project. Some of them changed slightly. But this is where we started out. This was the goal cross-section to begin with, to have a 8 to 10 foot wide asphalt surface with some shoulder areas. And we originally thought we would replace the boardwalks. We actually found out we were able to keep the boardwalks and just improve on the existing boardwalks. Wanted to do some wayfinding, and also I mentioned the interpretive signs. Going the wrong way. There. So this is the Volmerhausen road crossing that I mentioned. So the current trail crosses, you can see the photo on the top right there. It's a fairly standard crosswalk crossing there. It's a painted crosswalk with some signs, but speeds on Volmerhausen Road are quite fast there. It's the bottom of a hill in both directions, crossing through that valley. Speeds are fairly high. We want this to be a family-friendly trail, and this is really the one place where there is some actual concern about safety for crossing this roadway. So our design incorporates a pedestrian refuge island in the center of the road, which, splits the crossing into two, so you're not crossing as far across the road. It also slows down traffic. We are putting some protection in for the existing bike lanes there, so you can see the flex posts and the buffered area. There are existing painted bike lanes, but these will then be protected bike lanes. Also, again, has a traffic calming effect because now you've got those delineators next to the pedestrian refuge island. It really narrows down the roadway and provides a sense of narrowness. And we're doing a rapid flashing beacon on this crossing, so there will be a flashing light to alert drivers when pedestrians are crossing. So we really think this is going to be a pretty big enhancement to this roadway crossing. Oops. So we've done extensive community outreach and throughout the years through the planning design phases, several public meetings, attending village board meetings, and then we did some outreach on the trail itself to talk to trail users a couple of years ago at the winter running event that's on this trail. We have heard mixed feelings about the improvements, I will say that. Some people like it the way it is, and we have heard that from some people. But there is also a lot of recognition that it is a mess after the rain. Something needs to be done. It's really not sustainable the way it is now. So we've heard mixed feelings. I would say as the project's gone on, I think more and more people have understood that something does need to be done. We definitely heard, concerns about environmental impacts of the project, and we've done quite a few things to reduce the environmental impacts of the projects as we've gone along. One thing is, for the construction period, we were originally looking at a temporary bridge on the north end to help with construction. We scrapped that idea, and we're going to do all the access from the south end, where it's easier to access from Volmehausen Road. We've reduced the width of the trail in some places to reduce grading. So we were originally trying to get most of the trail at the full 10 feet width. That really is the standard for these shared use pathways. But we found we can reduce the environmental impacts if we go a little bit more on the 8-foot side. So the whole trail will still be 8 to 10 feet variable, but there is a little bit more of the 8-foot. We're using some techniques to protect trees that are alongside the trail as we do work and improve the surface. So geotextiles and excavation techniques to reduce impacts on the root systems, some permeable construction layers next to the root systems where they're helpful. Wherever we can, we're improving infiltration of water along the trail. Obviously, the asphalt is not pervious, but areas along the trail, we're improving drainage and filtration. And we are doing everything we can to maintain the habitat of the river and the floodplain. We're essentially trying to make no changes except for the actual surface of the trail itself. We're also able to do some cost reduction. We were able to eliminate that extra river crossing that I was mentioning, eliminate some retaining walls in places, again, by adjusting the width and adjusting the alignment slightly. We're able to keep the current boardwalks that are there. We're just going to replace the railings, which improves the usable width of the trail in that area a little bit. It also had some cost cutting. And then the variable width, you can see there that a good piece of the trail will be at the 8-foot width. It's, more than a third will be 8 feet, more than a third will be 9 feet, and about a little bit less than a third will be 10 feet. So overall, we were able to reduce the costs by, almost $1 million by doing that. I want to make sure I didn't miss the tree slide. Where is that? Here, yes, I knew I'd missed one. A very important one. So, reducing tree impacts was something we've really put a lot of work into. Originally, the original design in 2022 had 300 trees impacted. It's a big number. It concerned us. It concerned a lot of people. So, we've worked it down from there with a whole bunch of different phases you can see there. We got down to 130, down to 50. We're now down to 40 trees impacted. And then we will do a tree replacement for any tree that's impacted as well at a 1.5 to 1 ratio. So this has been, the project has taken quite a bit to get to this point. Well, this is a big reason why we've been constantly modifying to reduce tree impacts. So this is the cost and the schedule. and just a little bit more kind of the technical background of where the project began. The funding for the project lives in County Capital Project N3963. It is a short-term priority project out of our bicycle master plan, the Bike Howard plan, to do this. The estimated construction cost is $2.5 million, and we've received 2 grants for this project. One was for the design phase, which is just about finished now, $1.1 million through the Transportation Alternatives Program, and then we received a Rec Trails grant for construction for $2.1 million, and county has matching funds to make up the rest of that $2.5 million. So we are fully funded for this project, most of it through grant funds. The preliminary engineering is done. It was done in 2022. We are finished now with final engineering, which is kind of going through these final steps and preparing for construction. And we plan on starting construction in the fall of 2025. Our contact info is up here for your convenience, and we're happy to take any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions from the board? Mike, Colin, we'll start there. Oh, and Chris Fuchs has joined us from Dorsey Search. He's online. Just want to make everybody aware. Good evening, Chris.
Thank you.
There you go. Mike?
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. It's great. Definitely count me as one of the people with mixed feelings about it. I like coming back muddy from a bike ride in there. Still, like 40 trees is a lot of trees. But I got a couple questions. How extensive the physical separators that you had on Volmerhausen, is that just near the crosswalk, or how far up the hill are those physical barriers going to extend? And then I think you said that the boardwalk's not being replaced. It's still going to be a timber boardwalk. It's not going to be like fiberglass or anything like what CA is putting down.
Right. So I pulled the Volmerhausen image back up. So it's the posts are just in the vicinity of the crossing. I mean, you can see here the basically the impact area is this kind of more lighter shaded area here. So it's not the whole of Volmerhausen. It's just on the approach. And then the boardwalk, yes, the surface I believe is staying completely the same. And
Yeah.
we're just changing the side rails.
Yeah, we're changing the design of the side rails because they're a little narrower than what is permitted for alternate transportation use. So we're changing the design to get a little bit more width in the railings. So you don't hit your bike handles on it when you're riding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the real reason I'm asking is I understand cost and everything like that, but the fiberglass that CA is putting down on his bridges now is way better for traction than the timber. And 90% of my wipeouts on bike rides have been on the Patuxent Branch Trail through those boardwalks.
And through the engineering design, we did have those boardwalks evaluated. Being that we were looking to cut costs and it was getting expensive, that's one of the cost-cutting measures we did. We said, we've probably got 5 to 10 years left in those, and that's going to serve. When those need to be replaced, they'll be replaced with fiberglass.
Great.
Yeah. Similar to, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Colin.
Do you have video footage of those wipeouts that we can put on the CA website or something? Thank you for this. This was great. So that bottom right, is that an actual mock-up of what the bike lanes are going to look like on Volmerhausen? So they're not going to be the, I'm thinking of the two-way bike lanes on Oakland Mills Road. They're not going to be like that?
No,
Okay.
one in each direction.
Okay.
More standard.
Okay. All right, I had a few questions. It's, first, I don't know if anybody can appreciate it, but on this trail, the side of the trail that is not on the riverside is pretty steep in a lot of places. So the erosion is a huge factor. One of the things I was concerned with is when you complete the paving, and if you get a number of storms, what are you guys doing for predicting sediment deposition on the asphalt from that, steep hill section? You got a lot of little tiny rivulets that come down that edge. What are you doing to address that?
I'll defer that to Jason.
Because then you're just
He's on the
getting muddy
maintenance side.
on your backside, but with a hard surface, right?
Yeah, it's a lot to put all the engineered drawings up here, but
Yeah.
we looked at all of the drainage coming to and across the trail, and a lot of it now runs across the trail. We're going to be adding or putting back some of the clogged culverts that are there to direct it to those culverts and have it go underneath the trail instead of over the top.
Great.
So trying to prevent getting that sediment on the trail to begin with in a stable manner.
Sure. All right. Second, looks like you've done a very thoughtful process here. I saw the press release recently about bike lanes that are going up on Columbia Road and Kindler Road and all, that area of King's Contrivance. You've got the makings here with our group and your group to do a pretty nice loop where like you could do actual bike activities all within King's Contrivance, but you got to meet those last 50 feet of each of these segments where you know, the other end of Volmerhausen matches up with the path that goes under the power lines. It parallels the river and comes back out by the village center. And what are you guys doing to kind of work to make this a cohesive network within that area?
Yeah, so we do have a bicycle master plan, and this is just one piece of many things that are happening around the county. The upcoming bike lanes on the roadways that you mentioned, it's somewhat fortuitous that it's coming at the same or similar time frame to this, but that's just luck more than anything else because the roadway resurfacing actually triggers a lot of those bike lane improvements when we're doing them on street. We wait till the road's getting resurfaced anyway for maintenance needs, and then we put the bike lanes in at that time because it's really easy to do it when the road's getting resurfaced and you're putting fresh markings down anyway. So that works out nicely. We are going to be updating our bicycle master plan as well. So our bicycle master plan is almost 10 years old now. So later on this year, we're going to start a process of updating that plan, which will help those, find those little missing connections, find those pieces that haven't quite been, knitted into the network yet. So that's, another process we're going through on the planning side for the county to, the idea is really to have a cohesive network where people can get around by bicycle pretty much everywhere they want to go in Howard County using CA pathways, county pathways, on-street facilities that are safe for people to use.
Okay, last quick question, for a guy who has drop bars and 50 mil tires, what is the future of gravel in Howard County? If this is going away, is there the potential to provide, gravel or cinder surfaces somewhere else in the county for running and biking and I look at what like they've done in Delaware between Rehoboth and Lewis. That's amazing. And I was wondering if the county had any plans, along those lines.
It hasn't been something that has been prioritized up to this point. This is obviously, it's just 1.3 miles. It doesn't really provide enough for a gravel circuit or anything. I don't have a great answer for that at this time. The parks or, Patapsco State Park is adjacent also to Howard County, so there could be some opportunities there with some of the trails and pathways that run along close to the Patapsco River.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Ashley.
Great. I definitely love the crosswalk because that certainly has been an issue whenever I've walked from it. I was curious, has the county considered materials as we're learning more about polymers and PFAS and, the impact from leaching and things like that? What type of materials are we using? Does the county look at using more sustainable? What's being used really is what I'm asking. Yeah.
For surface materials in particular, you're asking?
Yeah. For people who aren't experts in those.
Well, the surface material for this trail, for the majority of it, is going to be asphalt, similar to you would have for the road. It's durable. It's proven for that, and also because it is a transportation route, it's plowable in the winter. That's something else we have to take into account. We did explore pervious options for this. At this point, they are cost prohibitive for a project this large. We just can't get the money to do that. It was a big, from a park standpoint outside of this project, we are looking at using permeable paving systems. We're really looking at using flexible porous paving. Some people may know it as FlexiPave. It's a mix of rubber and stone that's held together with a binder. It's pervious, it moves up and down. You can put it right next to trees. And we're trying to do that to keep trees. We're the parks. Our parks, we like trees in our parks. We like fields in our parks. Some people like parking at the fields as well. So it's a balancing act. But where we can, we try to keep trees. We try to, I know our natural resources people, you're talking about gravel. I work with them and they're constantly trying to create new trails. I think David Force Park is where they're trying to get some of that, and that's all natural surface trails. Where we can, where it's durable enough with the traffic that we get on the trails, we try to use natural surface. Crushed stone, mulch, bare soil, those really low-use trails because they tend to wash out. But a lot of crushed stone, which is more pervious, but it really depends on the use that it's going to get. Permeable is great, natural surface is great. They take the most work to maintain.
Sure.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, just one last. Chris, did you have any questions?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you both very much for the presentation tonight. All right, we'll move on to old business now. First item on old business is the board committee assignment policy discussion.
John can speak to that.
John?
This was raised by Colin, I believe, on the agenda topics. The current policy is The current policy was, and the operating procedures were included within the packet that you have. That's been the procedure since 2017. It was amended in some respects in April of 2024. I just looked to confirm that. In terms of making changes now, my belief is that this would be subject to the 3 reading rule because it's a change in board operating procedure. So I believe this is probably the second time this is up. So I don't think you can approve anything tonight under the 3 reading rule. You certainly can discuss it. And one of the ways you can do it, and I recognize there might be a whole new board in a week or two, but a standard procedure is if you agree on a certain thing, you can put it on the consent agenda and make it happen next time, but you certainly can discuss it tonight. I just don't see under the 3 reading rule that you can approve finally changes in the procedures tonight. And then whatever discussion, Colin, obviously it's up to you and whoever else wants to.
All right, thank you, John. I have a couple of hands up, but I just wanted to figure out, is this going to be a discussion or did anyone have a motion associated with this? Colin? Colin, surprise.
So, John, I have a motion, but it would be to basically ask staff to prepare something, so it'd be in a future packet. Is that appropriate, not appropriate, given the 3 reading rule?
I mean, we could, as long as you're not changing the policy, I don't think it's a problem to ask staff to do something. You could approve that, but you're not changing the policy yourself. I think if you ask staff for a recommendation, we could prepare it, and then you'd have to vote on it. That would meet the 3 reading rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to pursue that then. So can I make a motion, Mr. Chair?
Let me get my pen out. All right, your motion.
I would like to move that staff prepares and recommends changes for the board's consideration about the continuity for committee appointments and the process for board members on the Inner Harbor Trust.
Second.
Point of order?
Okay, just let me finish the writing and I'll get to you, Eric. So just so that I have this out loud, a motion filed by Colin, seconded by Mike, for staff to prepare changes to the continuity and process, I was writing fast. Continuity and
committee appointments.
And committee appointments.
Yeah.
Including the Inner Harbor Trust.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Eric, you had a point of order?
Yeah, point of order. Staff reports to the CEO, so I'm not sure why this board is filing a motion to direct staff. So that would go through the line of command would be the CEO would be the one doing the directing. So if Sean feels like this is something that he wants the staff to pursue, I would think he would have the leeway to do that.
Do you want to amend the motion to President and CEO?
Yes.
Okay, so amendment to direct the president CEO to make changes to the continuity of committees, including the Inter Arbor Trust.
To recommend the changes, right? I thought it was.
Yes, that was a key word as well. I can
Recommend.
write something up.
Recommend and prepare changes.
Yes.
Second it.
Not Mike did, but thank you.
All right, do we have any discussions on the motion? Eric?
So I'd like to know why. I mean, so we have a motion to do something, but why? Why are we doing this? And what's the direction that we want Sean to take? So you're basically saying you should look into this, but why? What's the problem? What are we trying to solve?
Do you have anything, Colin? Or?
If other people want to speak first, that's fine. I don't.
Okay, all right, well, okay, Colin, Reg.
So Colin, I'm unsure exactly what it is you want to do with this. Can you explain it to me? Help me to understand, because it's not clear.
Okay. So the first part is making sure that we have, well, first off, let's back up. Everything about this motion is asking the president to direct staff to give a recommendation to the board for us to look at and to vote on. So I'm not saying anything tonight at all, as John just mentioned about with the 3 reading rule. So that's the first part. This is just a high-level conversation. Does that make sense so far?
No.
Okay.
I'm
No, I understand. So, but I want to make sure that, okay, we're not voting on anything tonight.
I understand that.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about, the intent behind this, the first part is about the continuity on board committees. So we have the audit committee, we have risk management, and the Inter Arbor Trust, but that's in a kind of separate category. We had this discussion during the last meeting that there have been moments where staff have recommended that there be continuity. So for example, we have 2 members on the risk management committee. One of those members, I think in an ideal world, one of those members was on for the previous fiscal year. So they had context and there was a lower learning curve, continuity. So that's the first part of this, right? So having staff recommend some language that we could have that. Does that make sense?
Okay, now it's come.
The second part was that the Inter Arbor Trust is not mentioned in that portion of the charter, similarly to the Risk Management Committee and the Audit Committee. And I think that it would be wise to have a similar process for how we identify members to be on the IAT, just like we do with the other committees. So making sure that the language is consistent, because it's not there at all right now.
Okay, I have Sky and then Mike, and then back to Eric.
I keep changing my mind, but just for clarification, the risk management and the audit are committees, and the IAT is the board of directors.
Okay, thank you, Sky. Mike? Okay. Mike does not have a question. We'll go to Eric.
So, Colin, you mentioned a very interesting thing, continuity. I think continuity is really important. It's actually in the audit committee charter that there should be continuity on the audit committee. And I think, Sean, when you look at this, assuming this motion passes, I would definitely want you to look at continuity and its role, because this year we experienced the opposite of continuity. This year we had members appointed to the audit committee, and then all of a sudden, middle of the night, we had different members appointed to the audit committee. And that's just the opposite of continuity. And I'd like to see whatever ideas you have that we come up with ways to prevent that from happening, that we have at least a full year of continuity and making sure that we don't repeat that mistake again. Thanks.
Okay. Chris, did you have anything to add?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. All right. Having ended discussion, anything?
Is there a timeline?
What would your timeline like to be?
I mean, we'd have to look into, I didn't know what you were thinking, you know, now that with the election and the new board, and I'm not sure when you would want to really, you know, look at this. Early June?
Sure.
Okay. It just gives us some guidelines of when you're looking for, okay.
So it'll be used for the following next year's election.
Well, the changes will be presented to next year's board. Okay?
I'm sorry, I remembered what I was going to say.
Sky, yes.
John kept talking about the 3-meeting rule. I thought we were down to a 2-meeting rule. We could vote on at the second meeting.
For most
Oh, that's right.
voting items, it is a 2-meeting rule, new business, old business. For policy changes, we like to have a 3-meeting rule, so that gives the public a chance to digest that. It gets out to the public so they can respond to us.
Thanks.
I think that's probably the best way to say it.
I would just say, just for clarification, what's left on the 3-meeting rule is approval of the CA budget, changes to corporate bylaws, and changes to board operating procedures. Those are the things that are subject to the 3-reading rule.
So policies are not subject to the 3-reading rule?
Well, if it's a policy regarding board operating procedures, it would be.
Yeah. This is included in the board operating procedures
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
think this is a board operating procedure, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Mike is out of the room. We'll try voting slowly. We'll see how it goes. Any further discussion? I think committees are nice. All right. Okay. The motion is for the president, CEO to make recommendations and prepare changes regarding the continuity of committees and the Ann Arbor Trust to be delivered in the June timeframe. Everybody clear? Eric?
So, question, on the agenda, the continuity committees is 8B. 8A states that we have board committee assignment policy. Is the board committee assignment policy part of this motion or not? Or, because we could, I feel like we've skipped an agenda item if we're talking about continuity versus the board committee assignment policy.
Fair. I think
where are we?
I think that's fair. I think we talked about this during our last meeting, that honestly they probably should have been condensed into one agenda item because they're so intertwined. But I think that's a valid point.
Eric, I'm pleased that you want to stay with us 10 minutes longer tonight. And I'm kidding. I shouldn't say that. I apologize.
The outgoing members.
It's a valid point. As a board, do you want to have a second discussion on the continuity of committees separate from, or can we just move on?
I mean, we can combine them if that's the.
All right, just the will of the board?
I just want to know that we're combining them.
We shall move on then. All right, the motion for the CEO to prepare and make recommendations for changes to the continuity of committees and in our Arbor Trust to be delivered in early June. All right, we will start with Ashley,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Sky,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Karen,
Sure.
Reg,
Yes.
Eric,
Sure.
Mike,
Yes.
Colin,
Yes.
and I will vote yes. That is a 10-4-0-0.
We're allowed to do those 10 votes?
In my case.
Clock is right twice a day. So, all right, we will move on with our old business. 8C, Board Policy Review. I guess we're going Sean and John again.
John.
Hi, yes, this follows up on the session that was done before the board on March 13th, where we focused for the entire meeting on board policies and the consolidation. The goal, as mentioned in the memo that's in the packet, was to make simplify the policies, make them more accessible, searchable, be more transparent by reducing the numbers, consolidating. We did take some previous action at the meeting a couple weeks ago eliminating 5 policies as directed at the meeting. What we brought up here are the other resolutions that we talked about before. And just looking again at the 3 meetings rules, I think, or 3 reading rule, we have 3 resolutions that are attached, and obviously this is subject to your discussion and changes. One is the integration of policies, procedures, and statements into the governing documents. That's taking existing policies now and putting them as part of the operating documents that are essentially the packet that you already have in there. And some of them are already in, most of them actually, in some form. But in order to reduce the number of policies, and we could probably lop off, I don't know what the number is, it's in there, 20, 25 policies, if we say these are now part of the operating procedures. It's really just kind of an administrative change to make it easier when you review these, and you could look at the operating procedures as a whole rather than each policy that goes into it. And then if you decide you don't like this line, we make all the changes at once. It's an easier process, reduces the number of policies. I consider that an administrative thing, and we're not changing any policies, we're just putting them in a different spot. I think that's subject to the reading rule. We're not changing the operating procedures. The numbering system for board policies and procedures, we talked about that last time. You had some good ideas about how to do that. Again, I think that's more of an administrative thing, that we assign numbers to board policies. We're not really changing anything, but just make it more accessible by assigning numbers to old policies and new policies, so that if we can get everything on a website, it's easier to search. If you know, go to an index, you see the number, plug in the number, boom. So I think that's also something that if you decide you want to approve that, you can do that. The staff can get started on it. The third resolution that's in the packet talks about sunsetting provisions and periodic review of policies. And that, I think, goes to potential changes in your operating procedures, because you would eliminate existing policies. So I think that would be subject to the 3 reading rule, and so you couldn't approve that tonight because this is the 2nd reading. And so again, the aim of that policy is to get rid of things that we haven't used in years and are redundant, bring things up to date. And you could talk about that, but I don't think you could finally approve anything as to that tonight, because it would change the operating procedures. And again, I think we put periodic review, I put it on a 5-year rotation. We could do it much more quickly than that. We could do it 3, we could do it 1. I mean, 1 would be a lot of work, but the idea is, let's make these things manageable. Let's get rid of things that we don't need. And let's make things current, because then the future board can say, well, we don't agree with that policy anymore, or it's not applicable, let's get rid of it. Why have it in there? So that's the idea behind everything. Those are the 3 policies, and I welcome your input and discussion.
Okay, all right. John, thank you very much. While you were talking, I have a whole bunch of questions that have started already. We have Mike going first, then Colin, then Eric, and then Ashley, and then we'll go from there.
I move that we approve the 1st and 3rd resolution on the screen there, the integration of board directors' policies and the numbering system.
Yeah, I'll second.
I thought we had to go through the 3 reading rule.
What John just said is that the 1st and 3rd are administrative changes that can be approved tonight.
Okay.
And that the sunset provisions require a 3 reading rule, and that's not included in my motion.
Okay, so just to be clear, the motion is to approve the 1st and 3rd resolutions that was moved by Mike and seconded by Paul. Yes? Okay, that's Mike. Like I said, I've got a list here. Colin was second?
I was going to do the same thing, so.
Okay, Eric?
So I think this is kind of dangerous, because if we approve 1 and 3 tonight, and then 1 would 2 be approved at the first meeting of the next board, because that would be the 3rd reading, and the new board would have no context, because 1 and 3 are approved, and they just start sunsetting things, and without an immediate vote. So I think it's dangerous to pursue this approach. I think a better approach would be just push all this off to the next year and have the new board go through the three readings rules appropriately. But we do have a motion on the table, so I will talk to the motion also. With regard to the first one, I don't think this is ready for approval at all. I see a list of policies, one of which is the board governing handbook dated from 2017, and if you go through that handbook, which is actually in the packet, a lot of those policies are out of date. So we're including a board policy, the current CA board directors governing documents dated 2017 that's got a list of policies that are already out of date. So what I would rather see is, instead of this just a list of policies, I would like to see a draft document of what this new governing documents booklet would look like. So I would like to see that we get a draft document that we can look at in the packet, go through the three reading rules for looking at the new draft packet, the new draft governing documents that we can approve over three readings. So I think that's the best approach. I think that'll actually be a good way of educating the new board of, okay, here are your policies. You're going to go through them. We're going to have an introduction to them. And at the end, you'll get to vote on them. So I think if we move this to the next board, that would be a good thing. I'm very concerned about the sunsetting provisions. To have policies that just disappear, I think is dangerous. And lastly, the numbering system, I think the policy should be numbered. Okay. We don't really need to micromanage that.
Thanks, Eric. Ashley?
Great. Thank you for the work in this. I think it makes a lot of sense. Eric sort of touched on what I was going to ask about. I saw the periodic review schedule, which makes sense to me. My concern is around the board's tendency to push things off. And is there...
I've seen that.
Right. So is there something that can be within that guarantees... I don't want to create a situation where the board fails to complete their responsibilities of review and policies can fall in between, right? Like that they'll reach their expiration and the board hasn't done their job.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that for as staff is concerned, we would endeavor to bring it before you. Whether you do anything, that's up to you all as a board.
Yeah.
And I understand there's, you're busy and you have a lot of things to do and things get put off as we've seen. But honestly, when I've gone through this, I've seen things that I don't know how they're still there from 50 years. Like somebody's got to do something.
I'm ready to wipe lots of those. Totally agree.
So this is just an effort to do something. If you want to put it off, you've done it for 50 years. We could do it for another 50.
Right.
I won't be here, but that's all this is. There's no conspiracy. It's like, let's try to make it easier and help the residents to see things. But if we could study it some more, I mean, fine, whatever you want to do.
Well, more for clarity, so like having a schedule, it's something that like the board could access periodically, or like we'd be reminded of, obviously.
Well, yeah, I think the idea is to put it on a regular schedule, so that, I wouldn't put 100, hopefully the idea, and we gave you, I don't know how many policies, there were originally 160, I think we eliminated like 18 we got rid of, so we're down to whatever, 140. We had it down with, if you take out redundant policies, we had it somewhere in the 40s. Like, I don't think it's that hard to bring up 40 policies if you have 8, 9, 10 meetings a year, if we put them on a schedule where we put, 4 on each meeting, we get it. That it's harder if we have a batch of 150 policies to do that. But I think if we could, the idea is we can get it manageable, we'll bring them up and, we can make the sunset policy so that you might decide, look, if you don't take action within 5 years, it's gone because you're just not interested, like we don't need it anymore.
But the action could potentially be, we're gonna save that for the next board. Right?
One of the actions, one of the things is, we like that policy, and we vote to reaffirm the policy. I mean, I'm not saying all these policies are bad. I'm just saying whether they have application. You may say, yeah, we completely agree. It also gives you opportunity to upgrade and strengthen them or do whatever you want. If you say, well, that was a good policy, but we can go beyond it, you could amend it and change it. So I think it's also good for the board to see things that can be amended and may be helpful. So, it serves that purpose too.
Okay, Karen?
Yeah, and I just want to point out under sunset provisions here, because I think we can set the sunsetting.
Yep.
It can be 10 years, it could be 20 years, it could be 50, it could be whatever, depending on like the easement policy, you might put a sunset provision on that for an extended period of time versus.
Although the resolution says 5.
All right.
Where does it say 5?
The second line of the resolution will specify an expiration date not exceeding 5 years.
Hey, point of order.
Oh, yeah, I would like to take
Point of
that
order, we're not talking about the motion on the table at all right now. All of the conversation has been focused on the sunset provisions, and that's not part of the motion on the table.
Was that your point, Colin? Okay. Well, let's bring it back to the motion on the table, first and third, approving those. Any other comments on the motion on the table?
Yeah, I think it's a bad idea to do that. I agree with what Eric said. I'm done.
Thank you. All right. Eric?
I'd like to make an amendment to send this back to the president to re-review and re-review the policies and come back with a updated packet, an updated book of for a new governing documents book. So I move that we direct the CEO to propose a new governing documents book of governing documents policies for us to approve. So basically, I move to recommit the.
Is that a motion? Does that need a second, or is it just an amendment?
It's an amendment that needs a second.
I'll second it.
I'm confused. Isn't that what we're doing?
Yeah.
Well, that's literally what this motion is to put that thing together.
No, the motion's to approve it.
Yeah, you said the motion was to.
The motion and the resolution on the screen is to approve.
Right, is to put together that packet that you're saying.
No, the motion is to approve that packet, not to put it together.
Oh, I see. You're saying you want to see a draft.
I want to see it drafted.
Okay.
I want to see a draft of the new governing documents book for us to vote on. Because right now, I'm seeing that it'll include this policy and that policy and the old 2017 board governing documents, which is way out of date, and conflicts with the previous CEO review policy that we just passed 2 weeks ago. So there are a lot of conflicts presented that.
You stated that before, so just so I've got the motion, send the first resolution, send to the president the governing documents for revision.
Yes.
Okay, so that's Eric and Karen.
Bill, John had said.
John, yes.
Yeah, I think all this is basically putting things you already passed into another form. If you want us to make wholesale changes in the policies, that's fine, but that's not what this is. And the idea was that once they're in the form, you will vote on the governing documents and review that as one of the periodic policies. So if you want to make changes, my sense of what Eric is saying is we'll make a whole bunch of changes in the policy. There's some up to date. I mean, we could do that, but that's completely different. Beyond that, I'm trying to take it one step at a time. Let's take everything, put it in a packet, and then you can look at the packet and you can make changes. We'll bring it to you, and you say, we want to change the voting policy on how we elect a director, how we elect the chair. We want to change the 3-meeting rule. Like, you make the changes. I'm afraid, like, you may not like the changes. I have a whole lot of ideas that you can make a lot of changes. If I don't hear from you first, I don't know what's going to like it. We're going to spin our wheels, So I'm trying to take it one step at a time, but like, I'll do whatever you want to do. You're in charge. Just let me know.
So I'm not saying that you make changes to it. What I am saying is that the 2017 governing documents book, the board governing documents book, is out of date. There are policies that we have passed that directly conflict with those because those policies are out of date. So my concern is if we pass all this, we're going to have we're going to have a big packet. One of the things will be the board governance document, which will have a policy that's already been superseded by another policy that we just recently passed. So what I would like to see is let's rebuild the board governance documents book with all the up-to-date policies. So there's no changes. It's just a matter of assembling what are the most up-to-date policies. And the example I'll give is just 2 weeks ago, we passed an updated CEO appraisal policy. That's completely different from what's currently in the 2017 board governance book. So that's a conflict right there. So before we pass this, I really would like to see an updated version of it for us to review and then pass.
All right, thank you. Sean?
So we might be talking similar things here. So what John's proposing is saying, take all these policies, putting them in the governing documents. The board votes on the governing documents. So you're not seeing each individual policy. They're all contained in one space. Now, Eric, we can do what you're asking too. We can go through it and look for things that are outdated and antiquated now. I think the point is John is making, it's much more efficient to present the governing documents book and saying, well, we're changing, page 10, page 15, page 33, board just vote on these 3 changes. Instead of saying, well, here's this policy, board review the policy, vote on the policy. So he's just consolidating all the policies that are in the governing documents to have one governing documents policy that the board can vote and change at its leisure.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that there are no policy conflicts. So the 2017 version of that document has an old appraisal policy. Mm-hmm. We passed one just 2 weeks ago. If we pass the
to put that in.
Yeah, we can update that.
Yeah, so
I'm not aware of any other we changed it in 2024. I think we put those changes in.
No, this is from 2017 in the packet.
Yeah, I know, but in 2024, I just looked at the minutes from April 2024. We made some changes. For example, we got rid of the work session thing. Those are new. We changed the 3 reading rule to limit it to 3. It was broader before. Those changes would be incorporated in this document. So, I understand we don't want redundancies. We don't want conflicting policies. All I'm trying to do is we will consolidate it to get rid of conflicting policies. One of the problems I had, frankly, is I brought you 50, 60 policies that I think are outdated, on March 13th, and you discuss them, and, there was a lot of discussion, as there can be, and as a result of that, where I proposed 60, we got rid of 5. We could spin our wheels forever, or we could do something. It's up to you. You let me know what you want to do. Be happy to do it.
All right, thank you, John. Colin?
I'd like to call the question.
Call the question on the amendment. Very good.
Did you read the amendment?
Yes, the amendment is to take the governing documents, send them to the president for revision and presentation. We did a timeline for the last time with.
Say June.
Until president.
I don't know if we can get that done by June.
So we'll say July.
One thing to go through the whole governing documents and present changes.
All right, we'll say
it's another to present, one policy and bring it back.
We'll say July.
We'll say July.
Okay. All right, we will start with Eric.
Yes.
Colin.
No.
Chris.
Yes.
Ashley.
No.
Sky.
No.
Paul.
No.
Reg.
Yes.
Karen.
Yes.
Mike.
No.
No, and I will vote no. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 in favor of the amendment, 5 opposed, no abstentions.
There's 10 people here.
There's 6.
6-4.
That's 6, I'm sorry.
I'd like to call the question on
The math always catches up to you. The amendment fails. Mike?
I'd like to call the question on the main motion.
On the main motion. The main motion was to approve the first and third resolutions we talked about. And just to be clear, first resolution was integration of Board of Directors policies, procedures, and statements into governing documents. And resolution 3, numbering system for board policies and resolutions. Is that clear? Yes.
So,
question has been called.
Point of information. So, I'll use the example of the latest appraisal policy. Which policy is going to be included? The one we passed 2 weeks ago, or the one that's in the packet from 2017? Because we got 2 policies.
I believe that the operative verb was integration. So if there is an existing policy that is most recent, it would be integrated into the governing document. Is that correct? Am I speaking correctly? My general counsel agrees. That question's been called, sir.
Okay, I would like a roll call on closing debate.
We're just going to vote.
I'd like a roll call on closing debate. You can't just call the question. You need two-thirds to close debate.
Okay, all right, Eric.
Because I've got a serious issue that I feel like we're already playing check.
Can I ask a question? First of all, if you're going to call the question, someone has to second it.
Second.
Okay, well, there's that. Eric has made a motion to,
I didn't make
Well, then you need a two-thirds, you need two-thirds vote to end debate.
okay. Eric has asked for a two-thirds vote to end debate. Chris?
What is it doing? What is yes?
I understand. This is the motion to end debate on the motion made by Mike, which was to approve the first and third resolution.
Okay, yes, end debate.
Yes to end debate. Thank you, Chris. Ashley?
Yes.
Sky?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Reg?
No.
Karen?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Eric?
No.
Colin?
Yes.
And I will vote yes. So that's 7 in favor, 3 opposed, no abstentions. So we will close debate on this motion. Question has been called. Main motion, approve first and third resolution. Reg?
Come back to me.
Okay. Karen?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Eric?
No.
Colin?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Ashley?
Yes.
Sky?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Reg?
No.
Okay, and I'll vote yes. 7 in favor, 3 opposed, no abstentions. So the first and third have been passed. Thank you all for the discussion on that.
I'd like to make another motion on this.
Okay.
I moved that we reset the meetings counter for the sunset provisions. So when it goes back to the next board, they start at the first meeting, the first reading. So I moved to reset the readings counter for the sunset provisions.
I'll second that.
Reset the sunset provision for next board?
Well, after today, it'll be reading 0 again.
For next meeting?
Yep. So next meeting would be reading 1.
Okay. So that is Eric, and Karen is second. Any discussion on this?
Yes.
Yes, Sky?
Why?
Because it's a new board. So you're going to get a whole bunch of new members, and the first thing they're going to be required to is vote on these provisions that they haven't seen before. So
I think the maximum number of new members would be
It's going to be
5.
It's going to be at least
Max.
3.
Right.
that's, even if it's 1 new member, I mean, they should at least be able to get some background information, be able to discuss it. They shouldn't be throwing them right into a vote on this. I mean, it is a part of our governing documents, potentially. And it's a pretty far-reaching proposal.
Karen, you said at least 3. I'm interested
I
in
meant
that.
2. I was counting wrong. Paul and Chris.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Maybe 3.
Back to the motion at hand. Any further discussion?
I was just saying they can always choose to abstain as well, and, I mean, I don't know.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, then we will vote on this. Yeah. The motion is to reset the sunset provision in Resolution 3 that we just approved to start at the next board meeting. All right. Mike? No. That was a no?
No, sorry.
Thank you. Eric?
Yes.
Colin?
No.
Okay. Ashley?
No.
Chris?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Sky?
No.
Paul? Reg?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And I will vote no. So that is 3 in favor, 6 opposed, 1 abstention. The motion fails. All right, next order of business. Review of the board's FY 2025 annual goals.
Yes, so there's been a lot accomplished in this short period of time. So you've seen most of this throughout the course of the year, but I just wanted to give a brief presentation on the goals that the board set in September and the progress made on those, and just to kind of just a review for the fiscal year.
Okay.
So
This has been working better tonight.
okay.
All
right. There we go. So just to kind of give a summary of the goals that were proposed back in September and approved by the board, one was to finalize the strategic plan. The second was to do a analysis of the village facilities. The HQ lease purchase needed to be acted on, and also the goal of adding value and reducing costs, looking for ways to accomplish that. Increase online interactivity, the natural resource stewardship plan, and also just organizational excellence. So great goals, I thought, for the year. And the staff worked really hard and diligently to kind of bring these to fruition, but I will go through these pretty quickly, just kind of in the format that they were presented. The strategic plan. I thought the staff and you all were very helpful in analyzing the strategic plan, looking at it from a new perspective. I think creating the new strategic planning framework is forward-thinking, and it's really designed to guide the organization over the next 5 years, but also provide flexibility for each individual board to establish goals and objectives around this plan on an annual basis. This was great. It was completed on schedule. We've also promoted it on the website. I have some quick slides here. This is the framework that was approved. I think it's really been great. The staff internally have reviewed it at both SLT and the managers and supervisors, and next week we'll be having an all-hands meeting to walk through this. The staff really enjoy it. They like that it's easy to understand and comprehend, although sometimes it doesn't look like it, but when we walk through it, it really does encompass everything that we do here. So
the graphic is busy, right?
It is, but also to make it a little more palatable, our website we are redesigning. This will be launched within the next probably a week or 10 days. It's more of an interactive strategic plan on the website that people can hover over. This is just a screenshot of it, but I will encourage people. We'll post it on the homepage of the website to access it. But it really provides more interactivity in how people can get to know and understand the strategic plan. The village facility analysis, I won't go into this too much. It became quite a divisive issue. I will say this. The goal of this analysis was to look for ways to be more efficient, to provide better service to the community, to provide support to the villages, reduce costs and increase revenues, and also maintaining the autonomy of the villages. That was always CA's goal. It got misinterpreted along the way. I think, I think because we were on such a fast track to accomplish these goals, we should have taken more time to kind of talk this through and give more detail on it. But it was a great analysis done by staff internally. We did get a lot of useful information out of this that can be used for both CA and the villages moving forward. So it was, somewhat a successful goal, and I think it was achieved well. Next, you've seen this recently. The CA need to exercise the purchase agreement on the current lease. We worked with our commercial real estate agents, and we evaluated the fixed purchase option. You saw that a few weeks ago. It really was not beneficial to CA to exercise that option at this time, so the board made a great decision to decline the option. But one of the benefits coming out of this is we've started to evaluate the current market conditions and also developing some potential purchase options for CA. So, our goal is to be better leveraged with fixed real estate assets for the future, because there's not a lot of development that can be done in Columbia, and CA does not have a lot of fixed real estate assets that we could use to leverage to do other things in the future. So This was completed on schedule and we'll continue into analysis, to do an analysis on options in the future. So we're excited about that. Adding value and reducing costs. So we've done a number of things in this regard. From fiscal efficiencies, Susan Krabbe was here last week where the board voted to increase the emergency cash reserves by $2 million. This was, CA was able to do this by, implementing internal efficiencies, holding off on hiring, maximizing our investment income. There's a number of things that we did. These are all things to reduce costs. The village facility analysis is another way of looking for ways to reduce costs and add value. This was a good example of that. Another way of adding value is our online GIS interactivity. You saw that. That is going to be a great value to the community using an infrastructure and an application that we already have existing in-house. And this year, you're going to see as we go into the summer, we're going to increase promotion of our accessibility programs. As you may recall, there's over 50 programs that equate to about $1.4 million in discounts for members and residents. And then moving forward this year, FY26, we've got the membership rate study going on and the economic analysis. So a lot is done on a daily basis, small scale, large scale, to add value and reduce costs. As I just mentioned, increasing online interactivity. Jeremy's group came in a few weeks ago, last month. I'm losing track of time. The GIS application, I think, is really going to be an asset to Columbia and the residents. This shows adding great value, but also a great service to the community. There's lots of information we can add there on a continual basis. It's going to be very informative. It gets people more connected with CA, so we're very excited about that. Next up, you're going to see the website updated. We've got just some reorganization of the menu structure right now. You'll see that launched. We're really going to focus on the organization structure of CA so people understand it when they visit the website, but also provide information for residents. So we don't really have a section for that right now. We want to have residents be able to access information there easily that they should be able to find. So you'll start to see this website organized in a little different manner to provide better service to the community, with our goal for FY27 to do a complete website upgrade. So all of our social media and everything you do really points back to the website, so we want to make sure that that is as up to date and robust as possible. This is the GIS. As you recall, I just took some screenshots so you can remember the Discover CA. It gives access on the pools, the play areas. I couldn't capture everything in here on my screenshot, but it was really great. And I like to send out the reminder of the GIS application itself. It's really robust, progressive. It provides a lot of information. And, Ashley, to your point, yes, we will have events on there. So when people are out, they will see the event pop up. The Natural Resources Stewardship Plan, this got off to a great start last month where they conducted a charrette to gather information from the community and our priorities. It was very well attended, a lot of great information just to kick off the meeting. So the community provided input on topics including wildlife management, reforestation, turf management, watershed management, and habitat enhancement. There'll be many more opportunities for input and comment, as you heard Danielle say at the last meeting. So we look forward to continuing this, but this is a long-term project. So this is, a steady moving along, getting input, a lot of communication with the public and trying to kind of make sure that everyone has their say and is involved. And goal number 7, organizational excellence. I won't go into this too much. You saw this at the last meeting. CA is in a very strong position financially with our programs and services, with the community support and stakeholder engagement we provide operationally, environmentally, and with our capital improvements. We're always striving to improve, but I think it's important for the board and the public to see that the board oversees all of this. And CA is in a very strong position. The people in the community should appreciate that. It's the hard work of the board, our senior leadership team, and all the staff, right down from top to bottom. These are the things I went over last week. I'm not going to go over them again, but we drive excellence in CA's operations, support the long-term fiscal health and stability of the organization, manage our capital planning and expenditures. This is importantly enhance stakeholder engagement and expand CA's collaboration within the community. You heard the presentation tonight about that programming and how that is helpful in reaching that goal. And also, this is very important, you saw our presentation again tonight, ensure environmental and sustainability stewardship. You see every project that's done in the environment is really, keen on how do we maximize the value to the community, but also, saving the environment for the future. So I thought Howard County did a great job about talking about how they were saving trees from the original 300 down to 40. That's quite an accomplishment. So, I think CA does the same thing. I think you saw that in the presentation from Jeremy's crew last week as well. So with that, congratulations, board. You accomplished all those goals in 7 months. That is more than a year's worth of goals. And, I just want to thank all, you all and all the CA staff, because they really worked hard on a very short time frame to accomplish a lot this year. So I hope you appreciate that. I certainly appreciate them for doing that. So with that, if you have any questions, but I just wanted to, in light of the upcoming election, I wanted people to see that the board has accomplished quite a bit this year, and you should be recognized for it.
All right. Eric.
So with regard to Goal 4, I'm definitely looking forward to the results of the FY26 membership and economic study. One of the things I hear a lot from is how can we get our costs down? Why are our membership fees going up and up and up every year? Why are our annual charge bills going up and up and up every year? And I would love to see a plan to try to bring those down, because right now, at least in River Hill, we're getting bills that are higher than most other HOAs. We get bills that are higher than triple Reston's HOAs, and they've got access to their pools. If we want to use our pools, we've got to pay more. So I realize it's a long-term goal, and I realize that the analysis study is one step, but I definitely want to see us start moving in that direction. How can we make CA more affordable to all the residents? So thank you.
Ashley.
Yeah, really thank you to the CA staff, right? Like, it's all of you that are pulling this off. You haven't been here for a full year yet, right? So this was certainly a lot to accomplish. And really, I just wanted to say thank you for that, because the board doesn't take enough time to do that often.
Okay. I agree. Yeah. Okay. All right. Moving on. Village management agreements.
Yes, well, Laura Mayton was in here earlier. You heard that we have reached agreements with the villages. I think right now it's an issue of logistics around the meetings of the village boards. I was, unfortunately, I told Laura, like, these are contractual agreements. They need to be signed. So CA does not have that option to disperse the funds and say, well, okay, we'll just sign later. So, I'm hopeful the village boards can, realize the importance of these agreements for the funding and can make arrangements to make their meetings happen, either virtually or otherwise.
Can you elaborate on that CA doesn't have the option to disperse funds?
It's a contractual agreement. So, Eric had asked at the last meeting if we could just disperse the funds, and we can't do that. We would never enter into an agreement giving our money away without any sort of document saying what we're going to get for it. And we would not recommend that for people to do that on a business level, on a personal level. So you want to have a signed contractual agreement before funding is dispersed.
All right. Karen, and then Eric, and then Sky.
So with the understanding, Sean, that some of the village boards, because of notification requirements, they will not be able to meet in time for the deadline of May 1st, are you saying we will not provide them their funding?
We can provide them their funding when we receive the signed documents back, correct?
So if they have their meetings after the 1st.
As soon as we receive the signed documents, we will work on distributing their funding. It's a bank transfer, so, it probably takes 2 to 3 days.
Okay. Hold on. Sky, well, John?
I just want to say there was a statement made earlier, I think, in Resident Speak Out about the village meetings and complying with the HOA Act. I don't know each of the village, if they have a specific deadline. The HOA Act says you give reasonable notice of a meeting, which in our case is usually 6 days. So I don't know if the villages have different provisions, but routinely, we post a packet and things on Friday for a meeting on Thursday. I think that's never been unreasonable. So what I'm saying is, unless the villages have different provisions where they can't hold a meeting, the HOA Act, they could have a meeting next week under the HOA Act. If they have something else, I don't read the HOA Act as saying they need to have a month's notice.
All right. Sky, Eric, and then Reg, did I see your hand? Sky, Eric, Reg.
Well, Karen took what I was going to say, but.
Sorry.
To piggyback on what John said, at least my village, we can call a special meeting either by the village manager or the board chair or 3 of the board members. So that's a possibility for other villages to look into their bylaws and articles.
Okay, Eric.
So, I mean, again, it's not just the fact that you need to call a meeting, but we're also up against the election and the end of the year. So theoretically, the board changes over with the new fiscal year come May 1st. So my concern is it might take some time to have these meetings take place. So just so that we can prepare for it and so that the villages have a consistent funding level come in, I move that the villages receive their regular annual charge share no later than April 30th.
I'll second that.
Okay, move the villages receive annual charge. So I have this, I understand what you're saying, Eric. Annual charge share, is that the correct language, or is it the first quarter payment, or what is
It's the annual grant share.
the annual grant share? I just want to make sure we get
I would, first quarter payment of that, right?
Of the first quarter payment, yeah, thanks.
first quarter payment.
I think our budget
Of
says
annual charge share.
Yeah, first quarter grant payment.
Okay, all right. Village received the first quarter payment of the annual charge share grant. That was Eric and Karen. Any discussion? Sky, I see. Oh, hold on. I had Reg and then Mike and then Sky. A motion has been made. If you had anything to say prior to that, let that go and then speak to the motion if you can. So Eric, I'm sorry, Reg, Mike, Sky.
All right, I'm going to back off mine because I'm getting, yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Mike.
This just seems like a moot point that I will be shocked if there's a village out there that doesn't have enough cash on hand to make it to whenever their next board meeting is. And even if they didn't, then they have a serious motivation to call a special meeting and just sign this thing immediately. So this really just seems like a moot point that won't really help anyone.
Sky.
I'm just raising the question, can the board do that? Because Sean has already explained that CA cannot issue the payment without the contracts being signed.
Okay. Chris, just let me ask Chris, just if you wanted to weigh in, I want to give you the opportunity.
No, I'm good, thank you.
All right, Reg?
Okay, so to your point, I really, I think it's behooves the village to decide, whether they're going to have a meeting, when they're going to have the meeting, because it's up to them. My village has a set rule. It's, so many days for an announced special meeting, and, then we'll have that meeting. But what if, say, for instance, River Hill, which I think still, may still have the ongoing issue of the election, and they won't meet, from what I understand, possibly till possibly the 20th of May. So it's going to hold them up. Would you, are you still good with if they sign on the 20th? You'd still be good with that, or are you going to hold it against them? Not hold it against them, but you know what I'm saying.
No, we want to distribute the funds.
Right.
I think to Mike's point, I think most of the villages have enough cash on hand to get through the 3 weeks or even a month. So they can certainly meet at their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
We just, we'd be setting a precedent if we started distributing funding without no mechanism for what the funding is for or anything in return. So this is a grant to the villages that, and any grant has paperwork that goes along with it that needs to determine how it's, utilized. So if we're just giving money away for no reason, that's kind of what it is. I know we have a promise, but.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing that. And I also don't know what each village has in their accounts. I mean, maybe you do. I don't. And I really think that, for us to dictate to them and say, hey, well, you've got this money, we don't know that information. We assume, but we don't know for sure. Unless you're going into my village, Mike, unless you're going to my village and know exactly how much money we have to play with, please let me know.
All right. Let me let Karen speak, and then I'll let you speak, Mike.
Yeah, so here's some of my concerns around this. Maybe Harper's Choice is completely fine, but they have a contested village board election. And they did not make quorum last year, which means if they don't make quorum on Saturday, that they then have to have a special meeting to actually elect their board members. So that means they're not going to have, so they're going to have their election on Saturday, and then, I don't know, Ashley, when you guys would have your special meeting following that to actually elect people, and then you still have to have a board meeting with that new board. So they could end up going pretty far into May before they're able to even actually have a meeting. So maybe financially you guys are fine, that's not a big deal. Long Reach also has a contested village board election, and I think it doesn't matter for Dorsey because they've already signed their contract, but they could be I don't know, Long Reach, whether they'll have an issue making quorum or not. They made quorum last time with no problem. But those are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about, is how are these villages, it could be mid-May before we get these contracts signed.
Right, but at least in Wild Lake, your board continues until it is replaced by the succeeding board. We don't go without a board. There is still a board in force until the new one is seated. Mike?
Yes, that's the way it is in Owen Brown, and I think 7 of the villages have basically the exact same bylaws as Owen Brown, and board members serve until they are replaced. We get a presentation every year that talks about how much cash villages have, and it's close to $2 million, I think, or $1.5 to $2 million. The poorest of the villages, Owen Brown is one of the poorest of the villages, and I know that Owen Brown has cash on hand, and then I know other villages, for example, Long Reach consistently is over over the cash reserve. So I know that Long Reach, for example, has that money. What's that?
How do you know that?
Because we get a presentation on it every year.
How do you know what we have right now? Do you know what we have right now?
Of course not.
Okay,
but
that's my point. That's my point. We're just trying. I get you. I understand, but
so that's how I'm extremely confident that every village has enough cash on hand to get to whenever they have another meeting.
All right, gentlemen, I think we're, Colin?
We are out of time for this agenda item.
Okay. Do we need to call the question or extend discussion here?
So I'm fine calling a question on this, but I'd want to make a point that we're partnering with the villages. They're our partners. We're not trying to run a hardline negotiation. They're our partners. We work with them, and I think one of the ways we can show that we're going to continue to work with them is by at least saying, okay, you normally get your annual charge share April 30th or May 1st. That we'll continue to pay that, even though we understand it might take some extra time to sign these contracts, but in good faith, we'll give you your annual charge share when you normally get it April 30th. So I
will
think
just
that's
add,
just prudent.
so if Jeremy's crew is purchasing a vehicle, so the board will be setting a precedent that we can just give them the money to the dealership without a contract or anything, and just say, well, we trust you, we've bought vehicles here before, we know you're going to do right by us.
The villages are not a dealership.
Well,
they're not a
contractual agreement.
They're not a car dealership.
It's a contractual agreement, though.
They're not a car dealership.
I know, but I'm saying the board's setting a precedent.
They're our partners.
Let's stop there. Susan?
So, I know it's all important to you to make sure that you do the right thing by the Columbia Association as you sit on the board of that organization. So I just want to acknowledge that. And to Mike's point, just looking at the data, and this is a year old, but these are cyclical businesses. So as of the end of last fiscal year, the number of months of expenses that the villages had on hand ranged from 5 to 9 months, with an average of 6.9 months of expenses, and the balance at the end of last year was $3.3 million across the board. And if that's all gone, there's a bigger problem than one quarter's payment.
Okay, all right. Reg?
Okay, so, no, I thank you very much, Susan, I appreciate that. So it's, my village probably does have money extra. I mean, I'm sure we've got something. But to state that this is problematic to me. But the other point is, as someone has said already, the villages are our partners. They're not going away. They're not packing up and leaving and, everybody walk out on the road on 175 heading towards wherever. They're not. They're going to continue to be in business, do what they do every single day. So we could certainly show a little good faith. And your example of the new car, I understand that too, but that's not the deal here. These people are not going away. They are working with CA. They're our partners. Thank you for,
Our discussion's over, right? Like, we're way past.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
I know.
Excuse me, I'm talking.
Way
Then
past
you
time.
need to stop and let me finish.
Reg, please finish your comment.
Thank you very much. So anyway, I really see it as a partnership between us and them. I don't think they're trying to take advantage of it. I think they just, they've all said, basically they've said they're happy. They are going to sign the document. Let's show a little good faith. That's my thought.
All right, Colin?
Question on the motion?
There we go. All right, Sky. Motion, let me state the motion. Eric made the motion that the villages receive the first quarter payment of the annual charge share grant. That was seconded by Karen. How do you vote?
No.
Paul?
No.
Reg?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Mike?
No.
Colin?
No.
Chris?
No.
Ashley?
No.
And I will vote no. Did I get everybody? Yes. So that's 3 in favor, 7 opposed, no abstentions. The motion fails. All right. We are out of time. Last item on old business, meeting of the members. We have 10 minutes. Eric?
Yes, I move to set the date for the FY26 meeting of the members to be May 15th,
I'll second that.
What day of the week is that?
Thursday, May 15th, 2025.
Sean?
Is Sean voting?
I'm sorry, John. It's late, I'm writing, my apologies. John.
John is like Irish for Sean.
Yeah.
Don't look Irish.
And that was, Eric, to be clear, was that the 15th or the 16th?
What?
The 15th or the 16th?
15th, that's Thursday.
15th, just want to make sure.
I just want to inform your discussion. This is the way I analyze this issue. You have a policy in place that the organizational meeting shall be held on the second Thursday of May, which in this case is May 8th. I understand, because of the unique circumstances of the calendar here, second Thursday is coming up quickly, and you have a meeting on the voting for the village elections is this Saturday, and it doesn't give you much time in the event that someone doesn't have a quorum. I would say that your policy doesn't give you the option to change the date of the organizational meeting. That's your policy. Now, I understand Eric is saying the bylaws say that. The way I interpret this policy is it is complying with that. The board has already made a decision in the past that it sets the organizational meeting every year on the second Thursday. So if you were going to change that, you would be defying and not acting in accordance with your policy. Now, if for some reason that quorum isn't reached and a particular village or villages does not have a new representative or in place for the next fiscal year, and May 8th comes, that village would still be represented by the existing board member. So it wouldn't be that the village would go without representation. Eric, I know you have a contested election. If it's not decided, you would come to that meeting and you would vote for River Hill. If you were to lose the election, or whoever else lost the election, it would be a matter of, after that, we would just replace the existing person who was there and lost the election. We're required to take the representative who is elected, and that would be done afterward. Well, all I'm saying is that if you were going to change the date, you would be acting in conflict with your board policies, and I would not recommend you do that. So that's my analysis. I looked at the amended bylaws, the charter. I looked at history. I think that's the way it works.
All right, Eric, and then Ashley.
I mean, the bylaw, I know we have charters, we've got bylaws, we've got policies. The charter supersedes the bylaws supersede policy. And the policy.
Why do you say that?
And we can't write a policy that conflicts with
I just said that the
charter.
I said the policy is consistent with the bylaws. The board has made a decision. I'm not saying it conflicts, but you're saying there's a priority, and I'm saying, well, in this case, we're not conflicting. It's not true. So, I mean, you can say that, but all I'm saying is you have a policy. You can't defy your policies. But if you want to, go ahead. I mean, I'm just,
we can't,
it's up to you.
We can't defy our bylaws either.
Gentlemen, we've done this already once tonight. We're starting again. I want to make sure that we don't talk over each other. We're recording this meeting, and I want to make sure both of you can be heard clearly for the people who will be watching this at a later time. So, John, thank you for your statement. Eric, if you will. And then we're going to go to Ashley.
Our bylaws clearly state that the meeting the date of this meeting shall be to be selected by the board of directors at the meeting immediately prior to the said annual meeting. So that's today that we would do the selection according to our bylaws. That's what our bylaws say. So if we were to take this vote and approve it, we are complying with our bylaws.
Ashley.
Great. So I understand the concern that Eric is expressing. Obviously, it's personally related as well for River Hill. I can also see in the future this becoming an issue for other villages. So I do think it's something that our board should take under consideration as we're reviewing future policies. Our board doesn't do anything quickly, though, so I think it's something that we should be looking at over multiple meetings, and it also makes the most sense to defer to general counsel for legal opinions.
Okay. Sky.
I know it's really late, but something in me says that this is not the first time that we have run into this in 50 years, so that the dates fall like they do this year. So I know it's too late to try and research what happened in the past, but I'm just throwing that out.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. So the motion on the table is to set the meeting of the members at, Mike.
I'm sorry, just kind of a procedural question here. Are we changing our policy here? So does that require a 2/3 vote or something or because we're like suspending our, I'm confused what we're going for here.
We're just setting the date of the meeting as.
That definitely wasn't a question for you, Eric.
Required by section 1.0.1.
My understanding is that Eric is citing the bylaws. John is citing a policy that we have. John is saying that a board has already determined that. That is not necessarily this board. Eric's saying that we have to do it at the meeting immediately before.
I understand all of that.
Yeah. So.
All right, let's just vote.
Bill, can I before we vote, can I say something?
Sure, yeah.
So with all due respect, on to the board we make committee assignments, we choose a chair, and whoever is elected by that village should be the one who gets to be part of those decisions. And by not changing this meeting to the 15th, we will be actively disenfranchising that village.
Okay. Ashley?
They would still have a representative voting, though, during the meeting. That was one of the first things that John covered. It's not that they get no vote, it's just that it may be a different person for the following meeting, which is true of this meeting as well, right?
Okay. I'm going to let Colin speak first. He hasn't spoken. You've had a couple of shots at this.
Also, my other thought is that the election for chair and vice chair could just be put on the agenda at the board's whim at any time, so that there could be new leadership, is my understanding, at any point in the year.
All right, Eric?
The question I have is, does it make sense? So we could elect a chair who might not get elected, and then we could then we'll have to elect another chair. So we'd have to literally go through the organizational meeting twice if we have the meeting too soon. I mean, I think our second election would be scheduled, I think, May 13th. I think it makes sense to have our members meeting to be after all the elections have been finalized. I think that just makes sense and is consistent with our bylaws. So it's not like we're changing policy that next year it would be something different. It's just for this year, based on the calendar, I think moving it back a week just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I'll just jump in and I'll say that we have 3 competitive elections for this body this year. And if everybody turns out, this is not an issue, right? I mean, it's up to the villages to get people to show up. That's the point, right? That's their job. Sky?
So the motion is based on a possibility, not a fact.
Well,
it's based on
Sky, let me be clear about that. I'll answer. Eric is making this motion based on the reading of the bylaws. Karen brought up disenfranchising villages. Eric made his motion based on bylaws. It wasn't based on anything else, as far as I know.
I don't think that's what Sky was asking.
It's based on the potential that we could have a situation where we have the annual meeting of the members before the members have even been elected.
Point of order, we are out of time for this.
We're out of
agenda item.
time. All right. Okay. Ready to go? Karen?
What is the wording of the
Motion is to set the first meeting of fiscal year 2026, first meeting of the members at May 15th, 2025 versus the established, what we put in our schedule of May 8th. Okay? So, Karen?
Yes.
Mike?
No.
Eric?
Yes.
Colin?
Abstain.
Okay. Chris?
Abstain.
All right. Ashley?
No.
Sky?
No.
Paul?
No.
Reg?
Yes.
Okay. And I will vote no. So that is 3 in favor, 5 opposed, 2 abstentions. Motion fails. All right. Anything else?
Point of order, are we going to actually set the date at this meeting?
Well, sure. Do we want to set the date? You got a motion?
Second Thursday.
We are out of time for this agenda item.
It's the second Thursday. That was.
Okay. So we already have one established. All right. We are out of time. Okay. We are on to questions only. Anything for the president, for the president's report?
No.
Ann Arbor Trust? I had a question from earlier, if you don't mind. When Robin was doing the presentation, they said that we're coming up with a new website for downtown and the events.
Oh, the Lakefront Live.
Yes.
Org, yes.
Yes.
We have it, we just relaunch it.
Okay. I was just wondering, is it going to have a different look than our current ColumbiaAssociation.org website? Is there any new design or thinking into the the actual functionality of that?
It's the
versus-
same as you've seen in previous years.
Okay, all right.
So our, next year will be, as we redesign the whole site, that'll be part of it.
I just wanted to ask that question. That came back to me. Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
Anything else? All right, proposed new topics. We're at the end of the year. All right. Chair's remarks. We are a little bit later than we wanted to be here. Well, then let's go on forever. No. I just wanted to say thank you guys for a pretty great board year. A lot of passion, a lot of work this year, and I appreciate all of your input and all of your preparedness. Paul, Chris, you guys won't be here. Thank you in particular for all of your service. I do appreciate your service, as does the rest of the board, I believe. So thank you all. As was stated earlier by Laura, vote, 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 get out there. We have an election on Saturday. Thank you all. Any objection to adjourning? Seeing no objection, we are adjourned.